Janulopito Bujo, Kanakavadato, Sankirtana Capitolo, Kamala Taksho, Vishwambro, Dvijo, Yugadama Palo, Bandij Gapiakaro, Karanati, Nakalo, Ananda Lilamaya Vigraya, Himam Divasha, Vishundara, Tasma Mahapremara Shupadashi, Chaitanya Chandra, Namo Namaste, Kasturi Tilakam Latapatale Vaksana Kostamam, Sagre Varmuktikam, Karatri Venukara Kankanam, Sava Angari Chandanam Salalitam Kanta Muktavali, Rajastrio Parivestito Vijayate Gopal Chudamani. He Shisham Sundar Shikar Shikara Smirhasamili Manohara Radikarasika Mama Kripanidi Sapriya Chanana Kinkarim Kuru Tavai Vasmi Najivami Tayavina Iti Vigyayradetam Namam Charanantikam Yat Kinkuvasa Kaluka Kavani Nitaparasha Purusha Shakandamuli Tashakadara Sinidevi Savanujayas Takeli Kanjabavanangara Mahajani Shama Bhajami Radha Ravinda Netram Smarami Radha Madhura Smitasham Vadami Radha Karuna Bharajam Tatum Manastigati Nakapi Pakita Vahina Yaparada Lakshay Shiptascha Kamari Tarangamaje Kripamaitam Saranam Prapana Rindi Namaste Charanara Vindam Kanaka Jalada Gatro Nila Sobhagya Netro Migumaravara Balo Malati Kundamalo Tarana Vesho Nilapitam Baresho Smananini Brittani Kunje Radhika Krishna Chandro Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garidhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Then the rest for the devotees. So tonight we'll do the summary and take questions and answers on everything that's taken place so far. Because Monday, most devotees will not be here, so we thought we would leave Monday for personal meetings and things like that. So far, we've gone over all 4 verses of the Catuh Sloki. And just to summarize, the Catuh Sloki are 4 verses in Srimad Bhagavatam in the second canto. Give me 1 second. In the second canto, chapter 9, verses 33 through 36. But beginning in text number 31, then the Lord begins to speak. Prior to that, Lord Brahma, who's the creator of this cosmic arrangement, he is the one who arranges all of the things within the universal arrangement. He asks 4 questions to the Lord. The Lord answers those questions in 4 verses. In a nutshell, all the questions that are asked in Srimad Bhagavatam, they're all asked on the basis of 3 principles. Who remembers those 3 principles? Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan. So I'm explaining those quickly. The word sambandha means, sam means complete, and bandha means a binding or connection. The soul itself can only have a complete connection with God. Then that can be shared with any other person. You understand? But if God is not in the center of that, then the true binding of any 2 souls together, or a soul to an inanimate object, or a soul to anything else, is not possible completely. If God is in the center, the magnetic polarity needed to create a bond with anything else is then possible. I'll give you an example. If you take a paper clip and you connect it to a magnet, the paper clip itself now is magnetic. So now you could take another paper clip and attach it to that one, et cetera, et cetera. So the actual binding of the soul in its constitutional reality is only to God. Then anything that comes in the periphery of that can also be connected. But if you take the centerpiece out, the magnet out, nothing sticks together. So that is called a sambandha. Abhideya means when you realize I am an eternal servant of God, I'm obliged to act on that. When you come into knowledge about anything in this world, it commits you to responding to that appropriately. You understand? I became aware that fire is hot. So can I now grab fire? I became aware, you understand, that when I'm driving, we drive on a certain side of the road. I have been confused in other countries, right? I remember we were traveling somewhere in Europe, and I don't know why, but I don't know if it was James, somebody wanted to drive instead of having a driver. So we're in Europe and he's driving and talking, and I'm thinking we're on the wrong side of the road because I drive on the other side of the road. So I'm like grabbing his shoulder and everything. He said, "No, what's going on?" So you want to be aware of everything. You have to act appropriate to your awareness. Abhideya also literally means in Sanskrit to define something or to codify something. The Sanskrit dictionary is called an Abhidan. It means it defines the words in Sanskrit language. So Abhideya defines what is a sambandha. So they work in a synergy. You understand? What we're practicing, when you look at it, it's helping you to define what it is that's your goal, right? Just like if a person, I've given this example many times, I gave it earlier today. If a person is in their third year of law school, what are they going to be? Of course, anything could happen, but the trajectory is I'm going to be a lawyer. You understand? Because that activity is defining an outcome. So similarly, the practice in bhakti defines an outcome. How you practice, what you establish as your goal, that's defining an outcome that'll take place. So it's not mysterious. Whatever it is you're doing, I mentioned in the bhakti, what is it? The Bhakti Chandrika of Narottam Das Thakur, he says, Sadhana Dehi Apaha, Siddha Dehi Apaibetaha. What you're doing now in the practice, that's what will come out in the Siddha. So it's not a mystery. Bhakti is not really a mystery in that sense. What you are practicing is what will happen in the perfection. Hmm? The last thing is called prayojan. So the word pra in Sanskrit, that prefix means prakristrupain. It means something that's complete, full, absolute. Yojin means really to bind or connect. It all means the same thing as yoga. So prayojan means the goal which we become completely connected to. That is a prayojan. Then sambandha is the relationship. Abhideya is the practice that defines that or works in synergy to define that. Prayojan is the goal that becomes connected to the sambandha and the abhideya that we were doing. Understand? All of Srimad Bhagavatam, all the questions in Srimad Bhagavatam aim to answer those three things. Who am I? Who is God? What is my relationship? And then to act accordingly. The Sambandha Gyan also has two distinct features. One is called Samanya Sambandha Gyan or Constitutional Sambandha Gyan. What is that? I am the Dasi of Krishna. That's a constitutional reality. You cannot be something else. There may be very many iterations of that or variations of that, but every single religious tradition in the world, the practitioners of that religion, are they servants of God or not? It doesn't matter. Let's say you don't practice any religion. Are you a servant of God or not? You just don't know it. You understand? And that's called Maya or illusion. Understand? So everyone, whether they know it or not, is a servant of God. The very teleology means the purpose of every Atma is built in to serve God. That's what it was created for. I gave the example this morning. If you go to the store and you purchase a hammer, it's considered that you made that purchase in order to use it to hammer things. Now, of course, you can misuse it and turn around and try to eat your dinner with it or something like that, but there is an inherent teleology in the hammer. A table has an inherent purpose or teleology. It can be used for many things, but there's a base purpose for it. The soul has one base purpose: to serve and to serve God in love. That's the base purpose, which is why sometimes also we have these discussions about the Swarupa of the Jiva. So one of the things I had a discussion with Sundar Gopal Prabhu about was whether or not when they speak about inheritance, they're speaking about the inheritancy of teleology. The purpose is inherent. That cannot be changed. I mentioned Jiva Goswami says, Dasabhuti Ariva, Nan Eva Kadachana. You cannot be something else. And neither can you in perpetuity maintain existence in the material world. So if you don't want to serve God, at some point, that has to come to an end. You understand? There's no in perpetuity going from one karmic iteration to another. At some point, some events, some enlightenment, some inspiration in the heart will come. What else is there? Why am I in this world? Because that's the reason we talked about suffering this morning. That's the reason the perception, even though suffering is not there in the soul, the perception of suffering is there to inspire the question, what else is there besides this? Understand? And when you ask that question, then whatever spiritual line you're practicing, answers come according to the depth of that spiritual line. You understand? If you're doing yoga or you're practicing, some other mystic process, anything, whatever answers you get will come in that process. We're very fortunate. We've come to the line of bhakti. Therefore, when that question arises in any jiva who has impressions from a previous life in bhakti, then in the heart, the super soul gives information in accord with the process of bhakti. You understand? At that time, we take up under that inspiration, yes, I want to walk the path of bhakti. When you decide to do that, then the super soul also guides, yes, find the sadhu. When you find the sadhu being mercifully disposed, agrees to remove darkness by giving transcendental illumination. That process is called guru. The person is not guru. The function is guru. The person is a sadhu. That's a big difference. If the person thinks I am guru, that's a problem. You understand? It's called Guru Abhiman. Guru Abhiman means I am guru. I have many disciples, etc., etc. Then the taste in that person's heart comes in the idea I am guru with many disciples. So therefore, a sadhu. And what is a sadhu? You might remember the definition of a sadhu? Sadhveti iti Krishna prem. Sadnoti sadayati cha Krishna prem iti sadhu. A sadhu is that person who has some realization of love of God. Because they're absorbed in the taste in their own heart of that degree of love, their absorption in helping others comes only out of the compassion inspired by that love for God. So it never goes into the realm of the idea of having disciples as property or having disciples as a way of enjoying prestige and so forth and so on. So therefore, they can do the function called guru. Guru's two syllables here, gu and ru. So Sastra mentions gu shabdat andakarasha. The word gu means dark. Ru shabdat andakarasha nirodita. When illumination is given that removes darkness, that function is called guru. Understand? Common parlance. Somebody says, this is my Guru Dev. Somebody said, this is my sister or disciple. But I'm giving these distinctions because actual function and that idea is different thing. And if they become conflated or confused, then you may end up with the wrong person. You understand? Because their pride will seek into that arrangement. And if any pride is there, it says the Kattam Sadhu Prema Spusati Suchir. Pride and praying cannot exist in the same space at the same time. You understand? That's why Mahaprabhu told in Shishastakam third slok what? Trainada pi sunich. You have to become trained like a blade of grass, so humble. Because praying can't exist where there's pride. Understand? So we went over the first verse of the Catuh Sloki. And in this first verse, it mentions Ahameva Shameva Agri, Nanyat Sat Asat Param, Pastaraham Yare Tachcha, Yovashisheta Shushmiyaham. Whenever the term in Sanskrit is used in the context of Sastra, it says aham, it refers to God. If somebody uses the term differently, it means they have a misunderstanding of Sastra. Like this morning, Ajay Prabhu brought up that sometimes those who are impersonalists or Mayavadis, they say aham brahmasmi. The word brahmasmi, asmi means I am. I am Brahman. Therefore, I am God. Yeah. Why are you taking the bus then? Why are you waiting for the bus? You understand? I'm on the way to the meeting with the other Brahmasmis. All of us together, we're going to just, you understand? So the word aham truly belongs only to Bhagavan. You understand? Therefore, he himself is using aham, I. I existed before the creation existed. Therefore, the original cause of this creation lies in Bhagavan. Then he says, Nanyat asat, sat asat param. Also, the cause and effects that make this world I am the only energy that's providing that. So there's nothing before the creation but God. During the creation, there's nothing but God. Oh my gosh. You understand? And then the manifestations of the mercies of God. Haribo. Come on in, Didi. Haribo, Bharati. So in this way, nothing is existing except God before the creation, during the creation, and then Yova Shisheta Shoshmi Aham. After everything is gone in the temporal creation, only I exist. So we talked this morning. If you will develop the meditation that there is nothing but God, there should be nothing in your life that becomes problematic because everything you see has to be related to God. He's stating himself, I exist before the creation, during the creation, and after the creation. So what else is there? Every single thing we see is also a transformation of God's energy. I told this morning in the class, everything in the material world is composed of what? Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bhumya Pona Lovayu, Kamana Burevacha, Aham Karmatyame, Bina Prakriti Astada. All of this is my energy. That's why sometimes atheists give an argument. Well, can you show me God? I said, did you wake up this morning? Did you see the sun? Was it here before you woke up? Was it here before you were born? Will it be here after you're gone? And if you want to go back in your whole genealogy, was it there before them? You understand? So every single energy in this world is a manifestation of the Lord. I was explaining the other day. People talk about, especially scientists will say, well, there's the atom. Well, what's in the atom? They've given a name, proton, electron, neutron, etc. But what was in the atom was there before you came up with that nomenclature. So in the Shastra it says, Andanta Paramanu Chayantra Staham. I exist in every atom. So even if you take the smallest particles of matter, Bhagavan is there, and the energy in every atom is itself Bhagavan or God. So there's nowhere that there's not God. So anything we see, if we have this meditation, we will see it as God. You understand? But now the question comes to wait a minute. If everything is God, what should I worship? Can I worship the tables, the chairs, the trees? Can I worship? It's all God. So now I'm going to skip to the third verse. In the third verse, it mentions Yata Mahatani Bhutani, Bhuteshu Chavateshu Anu, Pravishtani Apravishtani, Tatateshu Natveshvam. So now he's saying, yes, everything is God. At the same time, it is not everything is God. How is this riddle solved? Achintya Bed Abeta. The word achintya means you won't understand it by intelligence. But by revelation, you can understand that God, being separate, has unlimited energies. Even in the Jiva, do we have energies? You go to anyone's home and you see the decor, right? The decor is their energetic expression. Are they still a separate person? Yes. So energy and the energetic source are two different things, but they're one at the same time. You understand? So here in this verse, it's describing that phenomenon in a sort of coded sutra. Krishna and his energies are everything. So now we differentiate. This is the energy of God. There's spiritual energy of God. But God himself and his feminine polarity, Radha, they always exist separate from the energy itself. They're the source of the energy. Understand? Then in the second verse, it mentions what is sambandha. Prateyatam yat pariyeta, na pariyeta chatmani, tadvyaratmanomayam, yatabaso, yatatamahat. So again, he gives like a riddle or simile. He says, everything you see, you should know it's not really of any value unless you've connected it to God. So if you see something and you think it has no connection to God, he gives an example. Yata baso, yata tamaha. We explained already, but for those who just came in, can you see shadows when the room is dark? So that's the example he's given. If you see something and you don't think it has a relation to God, it's like seeing a shadow in the dark. And there's no such thing. So in other words, there's no such thing as something not connected to God, either by his energy or by his person. You understand? So now in these first three verses, he's explained there's nothing but God. You should understand this, act accordingly, And you should understand that everything is God by his persona and by his energy. In the last verse, it says, therefore, Etavat Eva. Etavat Eva means you should search for the truth up to this reality. Etavat Eva Jigyasam. You should search for and inquire about the truth. This is the duty of human life. This is the thing that exists in the human consciousness that does not exist in the animal consciousness. Do animals also have a soul?
Yes.
Absolutely, because the soul symptom is that there's life. Plants have life. So there's a soul in all of these things. But the degree of conscious expression they have is limited. So there's covered consciousness, there's blossoming consciousness, etc., etc. 5 levels. So in the human being, consciousness is to the point you can understand who am I, what is God, and what is my relation. If human life is misused, how does it become different from animal life? Understand? If it's not used for that purpose, how does it become different from animal life? It's not. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur used to say this is called Dvipada Pasu. The word Dvipada means now animals who walk on 2 legs. You understand? If you don't take up the search for spiritual reality, because Jiva Goswami, he also wrote, the unique quality in the human soul is that it is Swashmai Swayam Prakash, means you can understand yourself and you can understand the reality of your relation with God. That is a unique gift in the human form of life. So therefore, the human form of life is only meant for that purpose. So he says, Etavat Eva, certainly, Jigyasam, inquire for and search for this truth. Tattva Jigyasuna Atmana. Any person who's a genuine human being, Jigyasuna Atmana means the human being who should be making this inquiry. You understand? Anviyat Vyatarekabhya. Inquire about it both directly and indirectly. So directly means in the process of bhakti, there are 2 paths that you have to walk simultaneously. One is Anukul and Pratikul. Means Anukul means what's favorable. So I will do the things favorable to bhakti. What's favorable? I will chant Harinam. I will follow principles that are healthy for spiritual life. I will do Guru Parasraya. I'll find a spiritual guru. I will develop bhakti in the path that it's supposed to be. What is Pratikul? Not to do that, but also to do things that are adverse to it. So I'll go back to my friends who are drinking, smoking, etc., and so forth and so on. Is it going to be helpful to bhakti? It will not be. So that's why even when a person comes to bhakti, immediately we have to assess all of our relationships. It doesn't mean we have to be mean and cruel. I told when I was really first getting into bhakti, I was still playing music, and I remember going to rehearsal, and they're sitting around. Some people drink, they do what they do, these different things. So I was sitting there, I was getting a little frustrated. You understand? Because we weren't rehearsing, just talking women, this thing, that. So I said, I wish everybody would just really try to grow in their life, and especially just stop being absorbed in sex life. The room became completely silent. So there's a whole bunch of guys in there. Everybody just said, you know. So there's maybe we ought to work the first song. Let's go. So we have to at some point reassess our relationships in the material world to see whether they are favorable or unfavorable to bhakti. And then we have to act prudently, but according to what will nourish us. And the same thing in relationships which we develop, even in intimate friendships or even in intimate conjugal dealings, we have to be careful. Because if the relationship is not wholesome, if it is not God-centered, it will stifle. Confirmed. It will it will stifle your growth also on the spiritual path. You can close. So we want to assess all of our relationships in that regard to make sure they're anukul. Because you can't avoid relationships in this world. We have to work somewhere. We have things, business dealings, we have social dealings. So we have to look at all of them, see, is this going to be favorable to bhakti or not? So this is anukul and pratikul. So acting according to that. Then it says, so that's directly and indirectly. Then it says, searching for these things, yat sat savatra savada. That should be done all the time in every environment. So it's not bhakti is not a part-time job. Instead, bhakti is a full-time absorption consciously. But is it worth it? Is my consciousness worth protecting? Is it worth nourishing? People sometimes they become slack, they get involved in something, that something starts to pull them down from their natural spiritual posture. Then they become extremely unhappy, say, why? Why did I do that? Understand? So we have to be protective about that even in the beginning. I'll do what is favorable and avoid what is unfavorable. So this is the practical implementation of the Catuh Sloki. If we don't see like that, then Atmanomayam, Maya or the illusion will give you an alternative. There's only two alternatives to the Jiva, the spiritual influence or the material influence. There's not a third option. As soon as you turn away from the spiritual influence, Maya is right here. Understand? So then also what happens sometimes devotees develop this whole dichotomy of fighting with Maya. Understand? As soon as you turn away from spiritual life and you face with Maya, then you get into a whole battle with Maya. Can you win that battle? Maya is also Bhagavan Shakti. You will not win that battle. So therefore, your only solace is shelter at the feet of transcendence. Only shelter at the feet of the spiritual energy. There's no way to win this battle externally with your mind, your senses, your mental endeavors, your intellectual endeavors, etc. You understand? So this is the practical application of Catuh Sloki. So we discussed Tattva Vichar, Rasa Vichar. We went over many things. This is practical day-to-day application for everybody. Because it's not that when you come to the process of bhakti, immediately you'll be able to understand, like so many leelas we talked this morning, all these things. This is in the advanced stages of bhakti. You understand? I'll do my Harinam and I'll see things. What is Astakali Lila? I'll realize the Naimittic Leelas like written in our Goswami Varga's books. I'll be able to deeply absorb. What if somebody who has some samskars, but they're just coming? For them, what practical advice will they do? These things. The same things that are good for us. Because remember, we described what is a sutra. Sutra is a shortly worded phrase that encapsulates a whole understanding. You understand? A short phrase, but encapsulates a whole understanding. So how will people then digest if they're just coming, how to apply this? They don't have steeped in bhajan life. They have not been practicing so long. But there has to be something, if it's universal, that's applicable to the new person and the very advanced devotee as well. So all the principles of the Catuh Sloki are meant to do that. If it is brand new person, same principles apply. If you'll see God is everything, you'll never lose sight of your connection with God. So your sambandha, even if you haven't established it fully, that will be intact and you won't be thrown off by the variations of activities in the material world. How many people suffer from those sort of things? Unlimited. You always are battling with the material energy. Some person at this job, some person in your life, something else always is there. But if you stick to this idea, I am a servant of God, everything is God. This person is in my life to only teach me a lesson, not to be with people who are adverse to God or who take me away from God. That's a practical lesson, but it only works if you yourself have the faith there's nothing but God. But rather, if you become angry at that person, you've joined in the mix of the material energy. And now you've come under the sway of the mode of passion and ignorance. Because now I'm also in an argument with this person. I don't like you either. So forth and so on. You understand? But if everything is God, the appearance of that person was to teach me something. So now in learning that lesson, I may say, oh, I need to avoid that person because they are practical for my relationship with God. You understand? So these are practical applications. What is my life's mission? Prudently, I may be doing many things. I have a career, I have a this, I have a that. But what is my life's mission? To search for the absolute truth any and everywhere at all times. If I lose sight of that, I'll also be dragged into the material energy. I'll start pursuing something else. Because there's only those two alternatives, Maya and spiritual reality. And then, so, Haribo.
Looking at text 36,
Yes.
I just had a little problem understanding that before I actually read the purport, because reading it, shouldn't it says a person who's searching after the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead, most certainly search for it up to this. Shouldn't it be must certainly search for it up to this, because the most certainly. I mean, that whole sentence doesn't make sense. And if it
They're
does,
trying to translate the word Etavat Ava,
oh,
and they're trying to translate it into English, and it's not really going to be a good translation.
and then this part, and you said that was Srimati Radhika up to Radhadas.
Etavat, it because it says up to this. What is the pinnacle of spiritual reality?
Radhadas.
Radhadasan.
Okay, so meaning up to this and
Up to this. But then we said this morning, if this is the goalpost, will that include everything from here to the goalpost?
right.
You understand?
Yeah, true.
So it means that's why there's one verse. Akama sava kama va moksha kama dada here tivena bhakti yogena yajata purusham param. If you want material enjoyment, if you want liberation, if you only want to serve Bhagavan, still you should only do bhakti. Because who will satisfy everything you want? Let's say you don't want to do bhakti. I want all material riches and everything else. Who can give you that? You understand? This whole prosperity gospel is based on that. You understand? This whole church is based on that. Your blessing is just around the corner. You understand? Of course, the pastor's blessing is right now. That's usually the problem. You understand? But no matter what you want in life, who is the ultimate person who can facilitate that? God. You understand? So he's saying no matter what you want, don't not do bhakti and try to pursue it independently, because then you're at your own endeavors. And is our strength greater than the strength of God? No way. Now he's saying at the same time, if you pursue these temporary things, it will cause karma. Karma is like a credit card. You never read the fine print. You understand? You will have to account for everything that you pursue individually, and the karmic implications in that will come back to you as a bill called karma. You understand? And karma is so interesting, it works just like a credit card because karma is based on four factors: kut, bij, aparabda, and parabda. The word kut means a tendency to act in a certain way that's going to cause a reaction. Bij means that desire comes in my heart. It would really be nice to do this. I know it's not exactly good for bhakti, but just one time maybe. You understand? That bij turns into a deep desire. Jayato Vishampam Sam Sangasteshu Vajayate. A whole sequence takes place by meditating on that. An attachment develops for it. You're associating with it internally, eventually becomes external activity. Now you've gone and done that thing. So you've sown that seed of that desire. You've gone and done the action. Now, aparupta means you don't have to pay for it right at that moment. Now, later on, when you least expect it, then the bill becomes due. And then some event happens in your life that is called parabdha karma, the manifestation of that seed you planted back at that time. You understand? And then what happens is because we don't get the reaction right away, we plant 3, 4 seeds at a time. Now they'll fructify and all come into fruition in a sequence. I was overwhelmed. Why is this happening to me? You understand? So the Lord himself is telling, listen, the process of bhakti is free from karma. Karmani nidharati kinchu cha bhakti bhajan. Bhajan towards Bhagavan has no karma. Therefore, everything that happens to you only assists to purify you to make you more suitable to come to your perfection in bhakti. And then the devotee is able to see that. That's the meaning of the verse, Tate anukampam sushimikshimano. I can see that whatever I have done in the past, just like a fan, when you unplug the fan from the wall, do the blades stop turning immediately? No. But now there's no more connection to the power. So now there's no more energy in those blades. Of course, I have to make the confession. As a kid, I had to stick my finger there to try to stop it. You understand? So my mother used to look at me just, okay, keep going. Just keep going. And of course, it's the one time when the fan is still going fast enough to really knock your finger hard. Okay, now I'm good. You understand? So you have to unplug the fan. Don't let it be maintained to the power that creates karma. Then gradually it slows. And as it slows, you notice if you're looking at a fan blade, you can now see more clearly because the blades are slowing down. And eventually, when they stop, you could see right through the fan. So in the same way you can see through this temporary existence, your karma, all these things, and you say, oh, now I see. And then you take shelter internally of the reality, and that begins to grow exponentially. Understand? Does it make sense? Yeah, no. All right, any questions or comments?
So how do you know the karma that the difference between the karma that you I guess okay, hold on. How do you know the difference between the karma that you come into this world with and the karma that you create while you're in darkness? How do you know the impact of which one is gonna you're paying back in essence?
Because the karma that you come in the world with is a mixed package. It's your karma, your desires, your impressions, both material and spiritual from the previous life. It creates a total package. In Sastra, this is called karmana, daivana, netrena. It's the work of the destiny of those desires, actions, everything else, and karma. They all mix together and it creates a package. What family you're born into, what situations you're born into, that's the total package of karma. And it's called parabdha, means it's manifesting the totality of those things. Now, when you do actions in that particular karmic iteration, it's like, again, planting that seed, right? Now, as you near the end of life, there'll still be some karmic seeds you have not gotten fructified yet. They have not blossomed. You haven't tasted them yet. Now, your desires at the end of life that you've cultivated throughout your life, because it's not just at the end of life, right? It's the totality of your desire pattern throughout your life, mixed with those karmic residue, mixed with spiritual impressions. All of that comes together to form a package. If the spiritual impressions were predominant, it'll be visible in the path that appears before you spiritually. So your spiritual impressions were very high. Anybody in this room, because if you come to the path of bhakti, you're at the pinnacle of spiritual realization. There is no higher realization than deep love for God, in which God reciprocates with you on a level of a friend, a beloved, etc., etc. Because you have to think in the revelations of God, there's, well, first thing, there's the freedom from the material energy where you realize your soul, not necessarily with God, just as being distinct from the material energy. That is called Atma Ananda. You will taste the results of that as the absence of any misery. Because what creates misery is the combination of thinking I'm this karmic iteration and the interplay of that with the material energy. That's what creates misery in the individual person. Once you realize your Atma, your soul, to be distinct from the material energy, that material energy cannot impose on it anymore. You experience the absence of that misery. It's called Atmananda. Now, in a deeper sense, the Atma then says, what is beyond the material energy? And the Atma searches out a deeper level of experience. It comes to realize the energy of God, much in the way a person walks in and hears a music song or sees paintings on the wall. Who painted that? Who made that song? And so the soul starts searching out the source of the happiness it experienced from an energetic expression. And then it comes to realize the energy of God. It's called Brahman. And then he experiences Brahm Ananda, the happiness of being associated with that energy. The next iteration is, I would love to meet the source of this energy. So then the Lord, who's been with you in your own heart for the entire sojourn in this world, makes its appearance before you, and you see face to face the actual Lord, which is in your heart, the super soul. Then a developed desire comes. I want to serve you. You understand? And then that develops higher and higher. It can be serving Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha, serving Ramachandra, or serving up to Krishna in Krishna Lok. And then it goes to the highest extreme of serving Radharani, who's the personified form of love of Krishna. So in this way, there's various iterations. Now, if you had previous impressions in bhakti that were very deep, you'll bypass even the worship of the Brahman and the super soul. And in this very life, your impressions will guide you to the worship of the highest form of Radha and Krishna. So so now when you start looking, it's just like when you look back at the history of something. Like any doctor, we have some doctors in the house. So a doctor looks back at your medical history and they can see patterns forming. So they can tell, oh, well, this thing was this caused this caused like this. And they follow the medical chart to look at the patterns of your health. Similarly, when you become a little spiritually steep, you can look at your life and catch the patterns of your previous life's impressions. How did I get here? It wasn't just in this life, because you can't get to the highest rung of spiritual expression like that. So there must have been previous steps that were taken. Already I had a desire to renounce the material energy. Already I had a desire towards the tendency to serve God. Already that tendency to serve God was serving God in the mood of love. Already that tendency was to serve God in the mood of love in the highest iteration of the original form of God, Krishna, and his consort Srimati Radharani. You can't come into that environment unless those previous samskars were there. There's 8.9 billion people on the planet. There may be 30 in the room. Okay? So you have to look at your patterns carefully. And sometimes devotees don't, because we look at life as a one-time event. Yeah, I was here, I was going around, I saw some devotees. They look pretty cool. We started talking. They invited me to. That's how this all started. Started in previous lives, maybe long ago. It was like, and it's culminated in this point. You understand? And then it will continue to grow and grow. It's okay. Any other questions?
I'm just,
Yeah.
that was so nice. So
Yeah.
You used a term at the beginning about a telse, a telke, a telkus, a talk. Yes.
What is it?
No, not ontology, but you said it was something.
Oh, teleology. Yeah, teleology means purpose. Teleology. It means purpose for something. Everything has an inherent purpose. If I go to buy a phone, what's the inherent purpose in the phone? To call people and receive calls. So everything has a nomenclature, and built into it is a particular purpose. That's called the inherent teleology in something. The soul has an inherent teleology to serve God. That's why the constitutional nature of the soul is called das.
So my next question was, because I always hear we talk about Krishna and we talk about Radha, but they have two purposes, different purposes, but I can never absorb. And I guess it's at different times that they serve a purpose in our lives.
No, always.
Or
Because Radha and Krishna are the masculine and feminine polarity of absolute truth.
right.
So that's a constant feature in our lives. What you may be describing is the nature of their own pastimes.
Okay.
You understand?
And how they
And how they differ in the pastimes.
Right,
Yes.
right, okay.
Yes, I get it. I get you saying that. That's true. You understand?
Yeah.
The principle is a constant in our lives. We can either be conscious of it or not conscious of it. Their pastimes go through various kinds of iterations, and that requires some understanding to see how that's related to us. How that's related to us will come from how much we've developed our internal spiritual identity in relation to them. Right now, our identity is like a mixed bag. It's almost like a transcendental schizophrenia, for lack of a better word. Why? Because I know I'm the soul, but at the same time, I have so much identification with this karmic iteration. So I'm thinking I'm still, let's say, John Doe, right? And even when people turn to the spiritual path to think I'm John Doe, I joined the Hare Krishna movement. 6 months later, I got initiated. I became Janadas. Then after that, I took second initiation and I became a Brahmin, all these different things. I'm chanting mantras, but they never really fully gave up the idea I'm John Doe.
It's like separating the self from the material journey to
Yes,
self.
yes. And they don't make that separation. So they're carrying that same material identity into their spiritual activity and pursuit. Therefore, it's like the good analogy is like I got in a boat, and our acharyas have given this example. And you want to take a wedding party across the river to an event. At nighttime, the person who rows the boat is rowing away, and you could feel the boat rocking back and forth. But they wake up, and when the daylight comes, you see we're in the same spot. Well, what happened? He never picked the anchor up. You understand? So in the same way, we anchor ourselves to a material identity, material activities, material associates, material dealings, and we start practicing bhakti, but we never lift that anchor up. Understand? Therefore, the process itself is going on, like the rowing was going on, but the process is not making any tangible movement in the consciousness for you to recognize what's happening. For a lot of devotees, they've been practicing 30, 40 years, they have still no idea who they are internally, spiritually, even aspirationally, which should not be. Bhakti Saraswati Thakur said by 10 years, you should understand what is Astakaliya Lila, or these kind of things. He said 10 years, you should understand these things. If devotees practicing 30, 40 years, and they still are not sure who's my Ishtadev, meaning who's the main form of God that I'm worshiping, that's a problem, actually. But institutionally, you can go on, people are joining, more people are joining. So people are joining, but everybody's getting on the boat, but the boat's not moving. They're not conscious. And the process can't inform you because material and spiritual don't mix like oil and water don't mix. So you can only get informed spiritually when you're being spiritual. You understand? Your mind and intelligence can't grasp the spiritual reality. So you have to open your mind and intelligence to the portal of your heart, which the soul is seated, and that communication has to be soul to soul. Soul of Sri Guru Sadhu to the soul of the aspirant. Because Guru is never talking to your mind and intelligence. Because the mind and intelligence has so many impressions from the material world, then if it goes into your mind, it's going to be conflated with your ahamkar, means false egoism. Okay, how are we going to enjoy this? Because your false ego, its whole principle is to make you enjoy. Your intelligence is like a data bank of all the previous enjoyable material experiences. And the mind, all it does is say yay or nay. It's like I'll give you confirmation. So now what happens is that anything you hear that's processed in the mind intelligence, the Ahamkar says, okay, what are we doing? How are we going to enjoy this? I'm the enjoyer. How are we going to enjoy it? Well, I want to do bhakti. Wait a minute, what is that? And people with the bed sheets and the marks and all that? Well, what's that going to, how are we going to enjoy that? You understand? So then the intelligence will say, okay, let's see if we figure out something. Let's see, and it's searching, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do that. And the mind is waiting. Okay, just tell me when you're ready. Figure out what we're going to do. All right, you can go to the temple. All right, mind says agreeable. We're going to the temple. Intelligence in the Hamkar says, but don't get caught up. You understand? Don't get caught up over there. You understand? But then you start speaking to the sadhu, and the sadhu starts reaching your heart. Your heart is not part of false egoism because it's the seat of the soul. So now the heart starts saying, this makes sense. I should actually take up the practice of bhakti. And the Hamkar say, what's the mind intelligence? They get together, have a meeting. Now you see what's happening? See what happened? I told you if she went there, this was going to happen. Understand? So that whole dialogue is going, and you feel it as a kind of, this is kind of uneasy for me and so forth. I have a few doubts. That's what that is. You understand? Soul is saying we should go. It's time to go. And the impressions from your previous spiritual dealings, they're pushing like that. But your ahamkara that was making you enjoy the material world is fighting against that. You understand? That's why Jiva Goswami wrote, Pratamam Namnam Shravanam Sudha Antakaran Artapeksham. The first thing that Harinam does is purify the subtle body, which is the intelligence, the mind, and the false ego. That's the first effect of chanting. Yes, ma'am.
Explain, because I think you've explained to me before, but I haven't gotten it. The mind and the intelligence. I would think that the mind is I don't know, just spontaneous, but the intelligence should put some sense into you. But you're saying the mind and intelligence is saying, how are we going to figure this out? What are we going to do?
No, the ahamkar is the core material identification. When you are not situated in your spiritual reality, you have to be something. So the material energy awards you a subtle idea called asmita. I'm something other than the servant of God. According to your karma, you get a mindset, a body, and everything else that is the facility of what's called the ahamkara. So remember I explained what ahamkara means. Can I actually even be aham? We talked about, is that your identity? Whose identity is that? So that's the first mistake. Aham kara. The word kara has two meanings. Karna means I'm the cause of everything that's going on. Karta means I'm the doer of everything. If you're the cause and you're the doer, what's the next logical thing you are? I'm God, but I'm also the enjoyer. You understand? So the ahamkar's whole posture is I am going to make you the enjoyer. You are it. God is cool. He's cool also. But you are really it. That's what the ahamkar does. And then the mind and intelligence are under the control of the ahamkar. Material mind and intelligence. What does the intelligence do? It's like a data bank. You don't need a data center. You got a whole data center in your mind, right? In your consciousness. So that data center starts spinning up all the different machinations about how to follow the ahamkar's instruction to make whatever you're doing enjoyable and avoid any suffering. You understand? That's all the intelligence is doing. The mind, when all of that is worked out, says yay or nay.
Yes.
Yes or no. It says yes or no to the idea. Now, what makes the mind choose one or the other? The degree of spiritual influence or material influence. If the influence is coming from the spiritual dimension, who's seated right next to you to allow the spiritual influence to take prominence? The super soul, the God in your heart. Because he says, Savashachaham release anivishto, matak, smriti, gyanam apana. Matak means he's giving understanding. Gyanam, he's giving knowledge. Smriti and remembrance. The last time you tried this, it didn't work. And your heart was broken. You were distraught for 6 months, eating ice cream and watching movies. You understand? So this does not work. You understand? So the remembrance, God's giving you remembrance. But the Hamkar is telling you, but you can give it another shot. Somebody's out there for you. You understand? And then I was talking about a class we were giving in Tulsa. And the class is on how to deal with conscious spiritual relationships. And people talk about finding a soulmate. How will you find a soulmate if you don't even know what your own soul is? How will you find a mate to it if you don't know your own soul? You understand? So if you allow that, and how will you get the spiritual impressions? How will Super Soul talk to you? I have to surrender to the Super Soul. This is called Saranagati or surrender. So I'll follow the dictates of our Guru Vargas, Guru Parasraya, Tashma Diksha Shikshari, Vishrambena Guru Seva. These things are also called Saranagati. Anukuya Sankapa Prati, doing what's favorable and avoiding what's unfavorable. Then the Super Soul is talking. Don't do this. This is not good. Let's stay on this path. And as we do that, the Super Soul is the origin of all bliss potency. So it gives happiness when we start to follow the dictates of the Super Soul. But we need a little bit of maturation. Like a child cannot appreciate what a balanced meal is and it's good. The child says, give me the same candy I've been getting every day, a little bit. I want more of that. No need to eat the balanced meal. The parent acts as a super soul there. Nope. We're going to have to give you a little bit of austerity to eat the balanced meal. But as you grow up, you start to appreciate it. And therefore, candy becomes secondary thing. Primarily, I want a good meal, healthy meal, etc., etc. You understand? In the same way, in spiritual maturation, we want to follow the dictates coming from the super soul. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. I will teach you, the super soul saying is, how to approach me with love. But you can't keep listening to the dictates of the material energy at the same time. Because then it will cause some confusion in the consciousness. This confusing stage is called anishtita bhakti.
How long does it last?
It will last for as long as we don't have the mood. It's called property. I want to surrender. I'm done. I'm tired of it. Whatever's going to be arranged for me, it'll be arranged optimally by surrendering to the process of God. The manifest process of God is bhakti. It's the path. Understand? So I'll do Guru Parasraya. I will take up the teachings related to that. I will do the sadhana. Sadhana means the practice. I'll be doing my chanting, my meditations, everything. You'll see immediately there'll be a big happiness comes about. But this is called Utsamai. Who remembers what Utsamai means? Huh?
Temporary.
You're right. It's like a temporary enthusiasm that comes. I've come to Bhakti. Everything is new. The culture, the practice. I'm feeling so happy. And then it hits you. I got to do this for the rest of my life. And so then it's like, All right, just take it easy. Don't run so fast, right? Chant a little bit now today. Chant a little bit. You understand? And then after a while, problems show back up. Okay, how are we going to navigate this? Now the problem is back. Hare Krishna, the problem. Hare Krishna, the problem. You understand? So then we start fighting this. And so then what happens is called Vyuda Vikalpa. I start thinking in my mind how to navigate it. I've already lost surrender because I start thinking how I am going to deal with it. So I'm back to being I am the doer. So rather than continuing in the process and allowing the inspiration of Bhagavan to intervene and letting Bhakti be the solution, we try to take over the process. And again, we become entangled. So from Vyuta Vikalpa, now comes Tarangarangini. Not Tarangarangini. Oh, Haribo, Haribo, Purdi. You could give for Takaji money. Just hand it to my wife. She give for Takaji. So then we become again overwhelmed by the material influence and we become a little despondent. Man, I've been trying to practice Bhakti and see it's not even working. You understand? But then again, you hear from Sadhu, you get inspiration from Guru. No, you can come back. So then again, you start picking up the practice. And when you pick up the practice, now I'm back. How you like me now? I'm back. And you start chanting, and now your chanting is more powerful, and now you're feeling really good. Then it comes to Rangarangini. Look at me now. You understand? I'm back. And then, remember we talked about pride? Pride. I'm first class devotee. Hare Krishna. I made it through the storm and I'm back. But then what happens because of pride, the real true sweetness of praying, love, can't enter the heart because they can't occupy the same space. So then now you're doing it, but you're not getting the feeling. So then you start thinking, oh, here I go again. You understand? Then, after going through those peaks and valleys for some time and understanding the process, I know it's happening now. This is a valley. I won't become discouraged. I'll continue chanting, being steady, doing my meditations, staying absorbed in my realized space. I'm the servant of Krishna. And then as more maturity comes, I'm the servant of Krishna with a special aspiration of service. Keep doing bhajan. Gradually, the material energy starts to see they're serious about obtaining the goal of service to my master. Because Krishna is the master of material energy. The material energy starts to voluntarily back off. Every now and then they send a test. That test is passed, they back off more. Eventually, the spiritual energy becomes prominent and you start to taste the internal spiritual reality. At that point, now nothing can compare. So the next time that person comes up to you in the store, hi, how are you? Right? Immediately it's like, okay, listen, if you're not talking about anything spiritual or serious, keep it moving. You understand? Because no more time for nonsense. You understand? So at that point, immediately the spiritual influence becomes prominent. You understand? And your satisfaction in your own heart becomes very prominent. Is the satisfaction between yourself alone? No. Krishna, Radharani, Mahaprabhu, they're reciprocating now, and the process of bhakti itself is reciprocating, and you're becoming fully satisfied. Now, at that point, only something which is equivalent or on the same level can match you. Therefore, you can start talking about, I found a soul mate, because they found their soul, and now they can be a soul mate. And then two together can work in bhakti, or a person may elect to go the path by themselves, because you're not in need, because all your spaces are fulfilled in your heart. There's no void. You understand? So this then becomes mature bhakti. You understand? And then it gets very extremely deep going from that place going. That space is called Nishta. In the process, there's different levels. Shraddha, I have faith that there is a God and I want to pursue it. Sadhu Sangha, I've decided to pursue the path under the guidance of a spiritual mentor or sadhu. That's called Guru Parashraya. It means person's like Guru. Then Bhajana Kriya. From the sadhu, I hear the process called how to do internal meditation and worship of the Lord. Bhajana Kriya removes all of those unwanted things from my space. The power of the practice removes those things. My soul now, rather than vacillating between the material energy and spiritual energy, becomes nishta or fixed. That vacillation is not taking place anymore. Nischalaya yasha iti nishta. When that happens, my perception of the spiritual energy imbued in the practice gives forth its own taste. That is called ruchi. Ruchi in Sanskrit means taste. So now I'm tasting the spiritual reality. It is very difficult now for anything in the material sphere to breach that, because the taste is so superior to material energy. Understand? So it's very difficult for the material energy to breach that space now. Once that ruchi comes, the first experience is the practice has provided this. So the intense ruchi comes in the practice. So you start practicing more because you're experiencing some taste from it. What that leads to is it now attracts the spiritual reality closer. So now when the spirituality comes more into your view, your practice shifts from taste in the process to taste in the object of the process. That stage is called ashakti. Then in that state, it's only waiting until the actual spiritual energy descends on your consciousness and crystallizes that whole spiritual reality. That's called Sudasattva Viseshakma, Prem Shiyangsa Samyabha. Ruchi bis chittamasvinya. Your consciousness of all egoism, everything else, melts away and is replaced by the spiritual reality of who you eternally are in the spiritual world. This is the process in a nutshell. Any other comments, questions? Any senior devotees, anything to add? Ajay Prabhu.
I mean, different views are there, but I want to know your view. People, they think that they do the pious activity, the good thing, and do the unpious activity of the bad deeds. So both, like the good deeds may negate your bad deeds, and you don't get the result of your bad deeds because you did so much good. But it's true that you have to face the result of both your activities, the good deeds and the bad deeds.
So back to
in your this life or the next life or the life to come.
back to the credit card example. You can put so much money on the card, you pay it off, you again use the card. This is only a vicious cycle going back and forth. You understand? I did some bad activity, I paid it off with some punya karmas, means some good activities. But then again, the essence of what creates bad activities, it's called in Sanskrit kadaya shil, the tendency, or in karma kut, the tendency to commit bad activities is not gone. I'm just trying to cover them with some repayment of punya, but it will not work because it doesn't remove the impression to make you do those activities. Asha Didi.
Question he asked that when we did some good act and then I did the bad act, so my bad act will be negated through the good act or not? No, not at all. You do good act, the result of good act,
Good karmas.
the bad act,
You still have to get, yes.
it's not that I did 100 good acts and 20 bad acts, so I will enjoy 80 good.
So I'm an 80%. Yeah, I'm an 80% ahead. I'm 80% in the green. Yeah, I'm 80% ahead.
I know the answer, but
Yeah,
general conception is that
it's like that.
that's what I want to
General, you should have
go to
your own
part of
conception.
general public. I'm not.
No, but it's true. I mean, many people think like that. They think that I'm gonna play the scale balance thing, but actually it doesn't work because also the tendency is not removed by the balancing good karmas, bad karmas. Understand? And Didi also right. You have to take the fruit of the bad karma.
Yeah.
Understand? And then you think, well, is the good karmas outweighing? You understand? So that's when you see a person, oh, I did so many good pious activities, I'm a millionaire. But my wife left me, my children are all nonsense. You understand you understand? So we talked about the movie Ye Zindagi.
Yeah.
Same thing. You understand? This is one movie that told the story of one person who was trying to do what he was describing. One Hindi movie.
My practical experience at this juncture of my life, I feel that even your bad deeds are there and good deeds there, but God always helps you.
Yes. Because you've taken shelter of Guru
That
and Bhakti.
encourages you and
Yes.
takes you to the path of goodness.
Yes. Because once you come on the path of Bhakti and you get any perception, then that taste in that thing is so wonderful. Oh, I won't go back. I won't go back to those bad things. And if they arise due to previous material conditioning, a person becomes very much lamenting. Why this happened again? You understand?
Bhakti is nothing. Bhakti is about the goodness.
Yes.
The goodness and badness, whatever you say, it has
It's
nothing
beyond
to do
that.
with the goodness. You will get good results.
Mhm.
That is it. And bhakti is a service,
Yes.
loving service. It has nothing to do with
Yes.
your activity, karma, karma, bikarma.
Yeah.
Nothing has to do with the bhakti. So there is a two separate thing. We are
Mhm.
doing
Mhm.
karma, whether it is good or bad.
Yeah.
This is only for you getting the result.
Mhm.
But bhakti is loving service to Lord.
Mhm.
It has nothing to do with the result of your
Yes. It's written in Manasiksha. Dhamma adhamma niruktam shruti kilam kuru. Don't do dharma or adharma. Only develop heavy, deep mood of service towards the goal of your worship. Raghunath Das Goswami is writing like this in Manasiksha. Na dhamam na adhamam niruktam kila shrinu. Don't do dharma or adharma. Hmm? Any other question, comments? Mhm.
You mentioned about
I'll repeat it.
you earlier mentioned about japa and meditation, right?
Mhm.
Like how different they are, like how can we cultivate it? Like what about like meditation means? Could you please give any example?
She's asking, what is the difference essentially between japa and meditation? How does japa develop into meditation? So japa is a description of the practice, taking the mala and chanting the names sequentially 108 times, one round, etc. And actually, mala is a count. A mala is a round. You understand? Then so many malas make a granthi like this. So mala really means not just the nature of the beads in the round shape, but it's a count also. So one round is a mala, right? So when you're chanting in the very beginning, there isn't a meditation necessarily because there's not enough substance of understanding to meditate on. So then the mantra acts as a purificatory tool, just like the examples given by Rupa Goswami. If a person has jaundice, they cannot taste sugar candy, anything sweet. Everything tastes bitter. But he says by taking the sugar candy every day, gradually, as the jaundice heals, the taste of the sugar candy reveals itself. In the same way, japa, gradually you're chanting, and Jiva Goswami is mentioned, Praptamam Nam Nam Shravanam Suda Antakaran Atapeksham. Your subtle body starts to become purified by the hearing of the name of the Lord. Because the name of the Lord is Sud, completely pure. Now that's purifying your internal uh, makeup, means your mind, intelligence, false egoism. Once that becomes somewhat pure, then the name starts revealing itself. So then Sudeja Antakarane, uh, uh, Rupa Shravanena, Nam, Gu, Nam, Gun, Rup, Nam, Rup, Gun, Parika, Seva, Lila. Then six things begin to unfold just like a flower. The first thing that unfolds is that the Nam itself is non different from the Rup of that name. So Hare Krishna. Hare in Sanskrit is a vocative of Hara, means Radharani. Krishna means Krishna. So now, when you're chanting, the very form Radha and Krishna are appearing, not to our eyes, to the heart. You understand? The hearing of the sound is appearing to the heart, not the eyes, right? So now, when that happens, the form of Krishna and the name of Krishna, they are not different. Abhinatam namananiyo, they're not different. Then the next level that happens is Nam, Rup, Gun. You begin to, by hearing Harikatha, understand the qualities of Radha and Krishna and their love. Next after that, Nam, Rup, Gun, Parikar. You see an associate of the Lord serving them, and you think, how beautiful is that service? You understand? Like Rupa Manjari serving, like Subal Saka serving, like Mother Yashoda Maharaj Nanda serving. Then Leela, you experience those saved servants, those parikars in the Leela, and your own desire to be like that. So now when you're chanting, you're always thinking, Sri Rupa Manjari Pada, Shai Mora Sampada. How beautiful is the service of Rupa Manjari. So the leelas that I told this afternoon, those leelas start to come in your heart. And your aspiration becomes, I want to be a servant in those leelas. Now the japa that you're chanting merges with that ideal, and the chanting automatically pulls up that every time you pick up your beads. I'm giving an example. If there is any song you remember from your childhood, if that song comes on the radio or is heard, immediately you'll remember that time in your childhood. Automatically, they're connected. Like for most of us, if you went to high school prom or anything like that, that song you played dancing with the boy or girl went to prom, immediately that'll come back if you hear that song. Same way, hearing so much Harikata, as soon as you begin chanting, a flood of that comes up automatically connected to the name. When that becomes very, very mature, the what comes in your heart as the remembrance, it's called smaran, turns into substantive meditation. That's called dhyan. And therefore you become absorbed. It could be one particular lila. Radha and Krishna seated on a throne. They're surrounded by their sakis. And that vision comes in your heart as one single meditation. It is called mantra, mantra mai upasan. So you'll see that. And then one verse will come in your mind. Divya Vrindavan Aranya Kalpajurama Shrimad Ratnagara Singhasanastho Shri Shri Radha Shri Govinda Devo Prasta Ali Bhi Sevyo Mani Smarami means that I'm seeing Radha and Krishna seated on a jeweled throne, surrounded by all of their sakis and manjaris, in a grove in Vrindavan. Soon as you chant, that picture will come in your mind. Then, after some time, in very good high class maturation of your practice, that one scene, like a picture, will turn into the Leela itself. How Radha and Krishna came to that grove. So, like the Leelas I told this afternoon, this Manjari went here, bought Krishna, that starts to unfold in your heart. Once you start to taste those things, nothing in this world can compare. Nothing. Understand? Only now you're waiting that when Swarup Shakti will descend, it will crystallize my identity and I will become completely absorbed. At the time, if I still have a body like this, I will do my meditation in that form of my spiritual identity, and I'll do my practicing in this form. It's called Seva Sadhika Rupena, Siddha Rupena Chatrahi. Okay? So even before you leave this world, you'll be absorbed in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Internally, you'll realize your spiritual form. But this body is not finished yet. At the time of this body being finished, your soul becomes completely taratmic with the body, spiritual body that you realize during your meditation.
Haribo,
Yes.
will you become realized that when your soul is, when your body is done?
No.
Well,
You realize in this body.
yeah.
Then when this body is done, what you realize is what you will be. People are thinking this is an issue.
Repeat that one more time.
Yes. You will realize who you are spiritually in your practice now, in the body. Then when the body's finished, only what you realize will be remaining. Narada Muni discussed this with Vyasadeva. He mentioned that at the time of death, like lightning and illumination take place simultaneously. Prayujamani Mai Tvam Sudim Bhagavatim Tanu. I received a spiritual body fit to do service to Bhagavan. At that time, Parabdha karma, remember we talking about karma? All my karmas were gone, had no more connection to the material world. Anyat patat panchabodhika. The panchabodhika body means earth, water, fire, air, ether body, fell away to never return, and only the pure spiritual body, Sudim Tanum, remained. So he describes the process literally. Understand? So at the time of death, like lightning and illumination, that body you realized in the practice of your sadhana now, that body is there. Ishopanishad Manjari. That body is there. That body has now been infused with Swarup Shakti. So that eternal body is there. When you realize that, you never remember, I was living in Akron, I was this person, etc., etc. You'll think I was always that person. I was never anybody different. You understand?
Covering of the material
It's very heavy. Genevieve?
is it important to know where you are in the process of bhakti? And if so, how do you where you are?
Very important question. Because if you cannot understand where you are, how will you know where to go? You understand? This is one of the things that has not happened. And because devotees couldn't figure it out, they gave up. And now the idea is, I'll just wait till I die, and whatever happens after that, it's all good. So it's become like Christian Krishna consciousness. You understand? Because the idea is, when I die, Srila Prabhupada will arrange all those things. I won't know them in this life. There's nowhere written in Shastra like that. You understand? I will practice bhakti. Bhakti will go in those incremental stages I spoke about. I will realize my spiritual identity. When I leave this world, I will obtain the identity I realize. How will I know where I am in the process? This is called Ruchi Pariksha between disciple and guru. So you'll speak to guru and you'll say, but you'll be careful because two things can happen. You can impose on the process or repose from the process. Imposing on the process is Guru Dev. I heard ankle bells last night. Well, what are you doing now? Oh, I'm on my way to work. Understand? That's one thing, right? So Guru Dev then may think, some sahaja, the tendency is coming. Or Shri Guru Dev. So now I'm experiencing some deep interest in the Rag Marg. I want to understand more about my spiritual identity. When I hear Harikatha, I really like the way that you describe how Mother Yashoda is serving to Krishna as a young boy. Or I like the way you speak about Rup Manjari, etc., etc. Also, at the time of Diksha, Guru Dev gives some revelation of their own Swarup, what they've understood of their own Swarup. So, following you, Guru Dev, I want to have this mood, Palya Dasi Bhav, Manjari Bhav Tirarika. You understand? That time, Guru Dev will give instruction. Now, what anarthas are remaining there, you should do Deepa Bhajan to help remove those anarthas. Then he will give instruction, or she will give instruction. You can study Vilap Kushamanjali, Radha Rasa Sudhanidhi, Lalit Mara Vidagdha Mara. And in reading those books, it will help nourish Manjari Bhav. And then questions about what you're reading will be discussed with Guru Dev. And as your bhajan deepens, those conceptions are in your heart. Automatically, the process starts informing you because you see, I'm growing. I don't have taste in this thing anymore. I don't want any of these material things anymore. Understand? It's not an artificial renunciation. It's that this right now, can you watch cartoons? Well, let's be careful. Yeah. I don't know. You have adults, all adults, for the most part, all adults. Can you watch cartoons and enjoy like when you're a child? You cannot. Because the maturation in your life has predicted there's a different taste, a different appreciation, a different aesthetic. You understand? You can't appreciate in the same way. You understand? Like I could watch my grandson, he could watch, what do they watch? Paw Patrol or something. Understand? And he could be completely absorbed. Understand? If I hear 2 minutes that sound, da, 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 you'll have to go in the other room. Understand? Or to keep them quiet, let's put on Paw Patrol. You understand? So they're not baba baba baba. You know, understand? So, but the thing is, your taste has grown. You can experience in your secular life, in your material life, how your maturation is coming, brought about different tastes. Same thing will happen internally in bhakti. But you'll check with Sri Guru. Oh, is this correct or not? Is this the right trajectory or not? Am I and reposing means some realization comes, but you think, oh, I'm too fallen. No, this can't be happening to me. I'm too fallen. Actually, we should not think. What happens is that becomes a politically correct, performative kind of humility. Because it means I've been with my Guru Dev so much, but I don't have anything. So 40 years later, I'm too fallen. I haven't realized anything. That's way above my pay grade. Well, what were you doing with your guru for 40 years? Nothing came to you? No realization came to you? But you're going to give class tomorrow. You understand? But you're going to give class tomorrow. You're going to quote so many verses, everything, this, that. But no realization came to you yet in 40 years. So the process not working, your Guru Dev's not told, what happened? Srila Prabhupada was the fulfiller of the prophecy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You're associating with Srila Prabhupada in his books, everything else, 40 years. You didn't at this point realize something? You're saying now, oh, Prabhu, I don't know. I don't have realization of these things. Well, better not to give class then. Better don't give the class then. Because if you haven't realized it, who are you speaking? What are you doing? So then the class becomes a ritual. You understand? So something you should realize. So the better statement is, Prabhu, are you perfect yet? I have not realized my siddhi. Whatever I have is the mercy of my Guru Pada. Don't say I'm very fallen, this, and that. Because actually those statements really are meant for those who realize Krishna. Humility is actual sanchari bhav of Krishna consciousness. If you have a humkar still, you can't be humble. You can do proper etiquette. But in Briya Bhagavatamrita it's mentioned here, Pari Pokana Dynasha Krishna Prema Ajasanvitanyate. Humility is a byproduct of realizing Krishna. So when Bhakti Vinod Thakur says that I have no piety, I have nothing, this is an emotional state called Sanchari Bhav, where he's thinking I am nothing. But who is Bhakti Vinod Thakur? Kamla Manjari. So better not to be performative humility. I've not realized my siddhi, but by the mercy of my Guru Pada Padma, I'm trying to do bhajan. This is the truth. You understand? Because if I say I haven't realized anything, then why speak to other people? Do more practice. And even what you realize, and also don't romanticize realization. You understand? In other words, don't think realization is only that I'm in the Ras Lila. That's only realization. Everybody here can speak something about Krishna consciousness. That's realization. You can't minimize your realization. Who's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, KG? Is that realization? Yes, because if not, go down the block. The guy who walked in the building said, "Party." Go ask him who is Krishna. You understand? It's a very practical thing. If you'll ask him who is Krishna, he'll say, "I don't know. Where can you buy that? Is it really good? The wine I have is really good. Is that one good?" Understand? But you know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Is that a realization or not? Yes. The realizations accumulate to manifested realizations is a different story.
Is that like faith though? That's right, isn't it? That's because you realize that.
No, it's faith, but faith is a potency. It's not an empty statement. Shraddha Anupayani Varajam Bhakti Unmukhi Chitta Vritti Visesh. Faith is what moves your consciousness to say Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So who are you to Krishna if he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead? God. Faith has a power. It's not an empty thing. You understand? So this is realization. When those realizations accumulate and they become crystallized due to the influence of Swarup Shakti, it becomes siddhi of realization. Siddhi means perfected realization. So therefore, you can give class, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am the Das of Krishna. What about us? Are we the Das of Krishna?
Yeah.
I'm asking. So he's giving class. Is it true? Is it said anything wrong? And so those are realized statements or not? This is called realization. People are thinking realization means when I saw Krishna dancing across my room and so forth. Yeah, it happened, Prabhu. My wife jokes with me. We had gardenias in our yard. And the devotees, after we gave Takaji the gardenias, we put them on the nightstand in the room. I forgot I put them there. So this was some years ago. In the middle of the night, I woke up getting ready to do bhajan, and the room is filled with the fragrance of the gardenias. So I said, "Oh wow, I don't know. Maybe this is." You understand? But I said, better to come to my senses and go ahead and chant japa. You understand?
Is here also realization?
Hearing?
is a realization.
It is, because it mentions, Jiva Goswami, she's asking, is hearing realization? Real hearing is realization. Hearing is not an auditory phenomenon in spiritual life. Jiva Goswami says, Shravan means hearing. Shravan Dwaram means a door. Anubhuti Bhavati. When you hear something and that thing manifests to you, that is called realization. That is real hearing. So I'm going to give you an example. So I'm asking you to close your eyes. Close your eyes. Tree. Do you see a tree in your consciousness? Is a tree there? No, there's no tree in the room. What did you see? By hearing tree, and because you have some familiarization with tree, you saw it in your consciousness. When maturity and bhajan comes, you'll hear Krishna. And by closing your eyes, that form is actually manifest in your heart because you've seen that form in the Archa Vigraha so many times. And you've heard the description so many times. You understand? And like that, as you mature, that what you're seeing in the hearing process becomes crystallized. The eyes become overwhelmed by what's your chitta is your consciousness. When that becomes permeated by spiritual energy, it influences your body. So premanjana charita bhakti vilochanena. Your eyes become filled at that time with the prema that's emanating from your heart. And when your eyes become filled with prema, when you look through the eyes at that point, you externally see the form of Radha and Krishna. Understand? From your heart, it permeates your entire existence, your mind, your intelligence, and affects your senses. Therefore, the pure devotee, they open their eyes, they see Krishna. Understand? But we sometimes really truly want to do that. So if we put some gardenias on your nightstand, you wake up, but no harm, because at least I was thinking, oh, yeah, the beautiful fragrance of Krishna. Understand? Because the four Kumaras, they obtained their Asta Sattvic Vikar by smelling the tulsi that came from the feet of Narayan. Understand? So a very wonderful thing. So this is meditation. If you hear something and it appears on your chitta, so if you hear Harikatha so much, at a certain point, all those leelas appear on your chitta when you're chanting. Yeah? All right? We'll end a little bit early tonight because tomorrow you're going to fire sacrifice, yeah? And leave from there. Okay. So it starts at 9, so you guys should get an early start. There'll probably be like a caravan because you see other devotees going there. Most of those will.
Is there gonna be a caravan so we can all?
You can arrange it. Everybody's gonna arrange a caravan. I have to leave a little earlier to get there because the devotees, some devotees who are taking initiation, they're in Maryland. So they have to get there first, and one is taking Dikshas, have to have time to give the mantras and everything. Okay. But yeah, if you go by caravan, and then it's gonna be early, so you guys can get back on the road. So it should be over by 11. You don't need to go up to Potomac Temple necessarily, everything, because then it's 8-hour drive for you back. And you want to get back in a reasonable time.
Everyone should have the address though.
You have the address already?
Right.
All right, so I'll make sure you and Shiva get the address before you leave. Okay. Any last questions or comments? Abhiram?
What's the question? So many questions.
Abhiram asked so many questions. It's just that we're not advanced enough to catch his language. Yeah? So he's looking out. All right, no questions? Some kirtan? Tulsi, you want to do a little bit? Very short. Very short, very low, because probably people are in their rooms at this point. Oh, before we go, the director of the place called me, said, "Hey, good morning, good morning. So yeah, the people are asking at the front desk, where's the meeting at?" So I said, yeah, we're having the book reading in my room only, and so forth and so on. He said, oh, you should tell them so they can get people. Maybe other people want to come. I said, I'm not sure this is the event. They're really nice. They've been really nice here. You know?
Sounds quiet too.
Huh?
Book reading sounds quiet.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, we're having the book reading and I both listen. Hare Krishna, Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Radha, Radha, Sadi. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda,